on Arsenal, though, as well, I mean, Deluded, how you feeling about things? You know, very close to getting a win again. If Trossard hadn't have taken the ball off Kai Havertz's feet, I know the flag went up, but the screenshot made Saliba look onside, I think. But that's 9 points off the top of the league. There's a lot of people calling for Mikel Arteta to now lose his job. How do you currently see the state and the situation of things at Arsenal?
We shot ourselves in the foot, man. Like, we've shot ourselves in the foot. We're making it more difficult. And on one hand, I don't necessarily think Arsenal are going to win the title, right? But I won't say we're out of it. What we can say is that we're third in a three-horse race. You know, City are still at this moment in time, as great as Liverpool are and as bad as it looks for City, they're 5 points off. Depending on the next two games, things can go left. So we need to get points. The problem is City and Liverpool can drop as many points as they want. We need to take advantage. I just think we've shot ourselves in the foot. I might get cooked for this, but I think in comparison to when we was losing, I think the Chelsea game and the Inter game was a step in the right direction in terms of performance, but we're not putting balls in the back of the net and we're not keeping them out of ours. I personally think Mikel Arteta has kind of engineered a lot of the issues as well. You know, Martin Odegaard coming back was a step in the right direction. And I think he had a passing accuracy of like 92% and he created 4 chances. Now, I'm not happy that we're living or dying by Martin Odegaard creating chances. So, yeah, I just think it's a mess right now. I think we shot ourselves in the foot. In relation to Mikel Arteta, I have to give him I respect you for what you've done for the club. I do think to a degree you're a bit of a tactical genius and I think you're a good coach, but I don't know if you're a winner. Yes, you've been at City and you've been part of winning, but I don't know if you're a winner in your own right. And the conversation has to be delivering a title. And it feels like, no 2 seasons are the same, but it feels like the third year, including now, as Arsenal fans, we're kind of keep talking about the same things, the lack of depth, being unable to cope with injuries, the complacency, take nothing away from Havertz, the complacency with not upgrading on positions like that. So there has to be some uncomfortable conversations with Mikel Arteta if we don't get over the title and if we don't win the title. And I don't want to agree with Terrace ever, but I do think he's right, where it does feel like it's always next season or it's always next transfer window. So, yeah, man, it's kind of same old, man.
Do you feel the same, Potsy? I've seen a few of your tweets in the last few days kind of sort of calling out some of the fans that don't seem to have high enough standards. But is it too early to say sack him now today? Should he still be given this season? And what changes still need to be made to get you back to winning ways?
Yeah, his position will be spoken about in May, in my opinion, by the fans. I still have the same opinion that I believe the Cronkies will keep him unless there's an absolute disaster that happens. I still feel that a trophyless season is good enough for the Cronkies as long as they're in the Champions League. And that's why my ownership debate has been going on for quite some time now about the fact that I believe they lack the ambition to win. They're happy to spend the money to keep Champions League football at the club, but there's not really any ambition in any transfer window for me to state that the Cronkies are serious about getting us across the line. And this goes back before Mikel Arteta, by the way. I was speaking to judges earlier about it and saying that when we had Fabregas and Van Persie, we had no holding midfielder. When we had Ozil and Sanchez, we had no striker. Then we get the strikers in Aubameyang and Lacazette, and we've got no defenders because we're trying to get David Luiz, Socrates and Mustafi lined up. Right. Like, there's been a problem at the Cronkies about getting across the line for quite some time. And if you look at the kind of silverware we've won when the Cronkies have been involved in Arsenal, it's only 5 FA Cups in the kind of 2 decades that they've been here pretty much now. So that ain't good enough for me. And I think the standards do need to be raised at the club, and that second best is not good enough. It might be for some fans who have never seen us win stuff, but when I grew up, we were winning. And that was what we were told we were going to the Emirates to do. And that was to be competing at the very best level. And competing at the top level is not just challenging. You've got to challenge and win trophies at the bare minimum. You've got to get across the line, man. Because for me now, the majors that we haven't won is what we're supposed to be doing. And if this process was to get us back challenging, the process is done. We're doing it. We're here. I thought the process was to get us across the line. So look, I don't think the manager's position is under threat this very time. But I personally do think we are out of the title race as things stand, and things can change. We could get ourselves back in it. But right now, I don't think Arsenal are in a title race. And people are saying, let's look at 10 games and 12 games and 15 games in a row. Let's just try and win one first, yeah? Because that's where we're at. We've got to go back to basics. Because when you look at where we are right now, Tel, yeah, we're 9 points behind. We don't look too good in behind City. We don't look great sitting around Chelsea and Villas and Fulhams and Forests. But really, let's just look at what we're doing performance-wise, yeah? Because that's the biggest problem for me at the moment. Arsenal are not playing well. And yeah, we've had a tough 11 games. We can look at that if you want. You can talk about how many games we've gone away from home and who we've played in the top half of the table. But let's just look at the performance. It ain't been that great. You know, LB's right about Man City. They haven't been great either. We're lucky that they haven't great because otherwise they'd be flying ahead as well. I don't think that there has been any team so far that I look at and go scintillating. No one's catching them. Even Liverpool, they've been ticking along very nicely. They've been doing the job. They have played big teams now. You can't use that as an excuse anymore. They've been doing the job. They've got killer moment win game players, match winners, moments players. Arsenal don't have that, in my opinion. And I felt that was pretty evident against Chelsea and also in some of the other games. So, look, we can talk about process, project, phases, and all this stuff that people want to talk about. How about just get us across the line now? And there's an opportunity for Mikel Arteta to do that in one of the domestic cups, Champions League and the Premier League. But I think we've got a long, long way. We've got to be near on perfect now, right the way up from where we're playing now. We're around February, March time, and then we have to look again. Because if we're a few points behind come March, I think we've got a great chance. If we've got 9 points behind, 12 points behind, we're not talking about a title. We're going to have to do what LB says, and that's go for one of the other trophies because he needs silverware this season, in my opinion.
You're desperate for silverware.
100% desperate. Minimum expectation for me was to challenge at the top, whether it's with Man City, Liverpool, or both, and win a trophy. That is what we have to do this season. If he does not get a trophy, I will be asking for a replacement of manager. Who is that guy? And I'm not talking about going and getting De Zerbi. I'm not talking about going and giving Graham Potter a chance. I'm talking about a winner with a CV. No more project managers. Projects is done. Arsenal shouldn't do projects, in my opinion. Arsenal should be the team that's up there winning because that was always what I was brought up on. And I've had best part of 2 decades demanding that back again, man, and it ain't coming. So
Dan's bang on the money, man, because it's like I feel with Mikel Arteta or speaking about him, just for Arsenal fans, there's no balance. I think there's some that do the negative thing. I quite frankly think Mikel Arteta's got this weird like cult kind of following. For me, you can't have it both ways. You can't big up Mikel Arteta, praise him for the rebuild, praise him for how good he is tactically, and not make him live or die from a footballing perspective by those high standards. The same happened with Wenger, the same happened with Sir Alex Ferguson. Obviously, it's a bit different at City, but naturally, with 4 games not being won, you're asking what are you going to do with Pep? This is where it's jarring, man, and it does feel like make or break. As Dan was saying, I don't know how make or break it is because he signed a new deal before the season. We've obviously let Edu go, so I don't know if they want 2 people to go. So you do look at the Cronkies and say, do you lot want to be winners? It's a bit of a weird one.
I agree with the project conversation because there was a project when he first came in. You changed your backroom staff, you rebuilt the club from its burning ashes of what it previously was. You were awful. You had a bad squad. You hadn't been in title races for years. You were in the pit for a club your size. You were in the pits, and there was a rebuild, and it was slow, but you got back to challenging for titles. I think Arsenal fans have got to wake up and realize. Now, I know Liverpool won trophies, but they've replaced one head coach with another head coach, and actually they've improved because there's new ideas, there's a rejuvenation, there's a new motivation. And I think that can happen. I get a lot of stick at the moment for 2 years ago when I said Arsenal was scary. And I've obviously have a few videos since. And firstly, sometimes it's, the titles of a video are one thing. But the one thing I said in a lot of those videos, which seems to get ignored by my detractors, which is fair, is that I said it's win-win for Arsenal. I felt as though you were either going to win with Arteta or he was going to take you to the edge and somebody new could come in and get you over the line.
That's I don't feel like the convo's heading, Terry.
Yeah, and I don't think, and this is what you said about the cult followings, right? The cult following of Mikel Arteta, in my opinion, is as unproductive for Arsenal as the people that despise the man. I don't think either of those 2 opinions help your club. I think more balance is needed personally.
And it's redundant, Terry, man, because people will say we sold Smith Rowe, and some people would say, but look what he saved Arteta's job. Nobody cares. Big up Arteta for the rebuild. It's now what we do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And by the way, both groups, the ones who love Arteta and the ones that despise him, they all have opinions I agree with within those set groups. But I think it's those 2 groups for me as an outsider looking in, the conversations become more about, I want to be right, than what's best 100%. For Arsenal. And I'm talking both groups at the same time. I just think, how can you sit there and completely defend Arteta through this season? Yes, he didn't make players get sent off, but he definitely shouldn't have started Moreno in a number 10. He definitely should have given Nwaneri more opportunities. These things are genuine criticisms. I agree with you, by the way, Deluded, that I think in the last 2 games against Inter and Chelsea, you've looked far more like yourselves. And in isolation, a 1-0 away defeat to Inter and a 1-1 draw away at Chelsea are not bad results. But if you look at the sequence of results, of course, it does look bad.